Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. Today, we're going to kick it off with high tempo. I wanted to get into it first, so I didn't forget, because I always have the problem of forgetting what I wanted to bring in. But there's a small video game company that produces a football game that is a competitor to Madden. And I don't know how many people play football video games, but Madden has been the top football game since they were able to get the NFL to only sell them their license. There used to be a game put out called like ESPN NFL Football that I thought was better, and they've had a monopoly on it. With that monopoly, they've cut out NCAA football and some other properties, and they've made Madden into like almost like a loot box type gambling game where you pay for players, or you pay for card packs every year. Same exact thing. You have to start from scratch. You have to pay real money to unlock extra players for your team. And I just want to play a nice franchise mode. So there's a game called Axis Football that announced that they're going to be having yet another game. I think they've been going for 3 or 4 years. They're not quite at the quality that regular Madden is at in terms of like tackling and physics and stuff, but it is a cool game to check out. So it's something I'm going to be following. I just wanted to mention it here off the top of the show. They did get funding they made enough money off last year's 2018 version to go ahead and get a 2019 version. So I'm excited about that, because with this, if you play on a PC, you can actually load in other rosters. So theoretically, you could have your own version of NCAA football if you took the time to create each team, and do the same probably for the NFL if you wanted to, or if you're just tired of spending money on player packs, which is all Madden cares about now. It seems like to just scam you out of money. I don't see how the NFL finds that beneficial, but that's just me. And I wanted to start off the show with that. I know, Matt, you have something you want to talk about too in regards to our stuff, so go ahead and get into that.
Absolutely. If you've been to our Southbound Sports website, hopefully you've been there. If you haven't, we have a store that has been up for a while. I really went through, and before I wanted to plug it, I wanted to make sure that the quality of items was good. Got on tonight my Southbound Sports sweatshirt. It actually is really good quality stuff. So if you're looking for some new workout gear or warm weather gear to help deal with the cold weather, definitely hop on there and look at our shop. I like that you can customize the different shirts and different things like that, so that you can do it the way you want and have it designed with the colors, schemes, and things that you like. And it's affordable, so help support the podcast and get out and support us.
Yeah, definitely. We've been, if you followed the show for a long time, we kind of switched podcast hosts a few times. We have some partners. Now we're going all at it ourselves, so we'd appreciate the support. And we've been loading all of the episodes into our own website. You can get it at southboundsports.com. It should be finished hosting almost all the episodes. I almost got all the old ones loaded in probably sometime this week. So definitely check that out. And there will be some design tweaks coming, if you look at it now, within the next week or two, as we get ready to host all of our own stuff, and then hopefully bring you more content using our site as a platform. So definitely check that out, bookmark it, tell your friends it'll be your way to get the latest episodes of the show at the earliest moment. But let's go ahead and get into some hockey talk. We've talked about getting into it more, but Pittsburgh Penguins are kind of fluttering down. 5th right now in the Metropolitan. I think they're up 3-2 on the Blue Jackets, Columbus right now. But some of the moves I don't understand. And they've been getting a lot of hate. I've always been in the boat all year, or all season, I guess, that, hey, the Penguins are going to turn it on. They're going to figure it out. I liken it to maybe the LeBron teams. Maybe not so, but kind of like when he was at Miami. They had the star players on the top. You knew what they had to do during the regular season. A lot of people always freaked out. And then when the playoffs came around, they were all right. They were ready to make a deep run to the finals. I've personally felt that that's how the Penguins are, but I know hockey's a little bit harder to pull that off. You have more players. You have to have lines. You have to have people that are meshing. And they're making moves that don't make sense. But I know, Matt, you want to talk about it. So why don't you go ahead into what they did. Was it today or yesterday? I can't even remember when that happened. Yesterday.
I believe it was yesterday. And I'm just going to steal the quote from ESPN because I think they hit the nail on the head. The trade grades. Penguins add warm body, not much else, and the Eric Branson deal. I think that pretty much hits it. They did need to acquire some defensemen and defensive talent, which is something we've been beating the drum about. We have the offensive firepower. They need the defensive help, and it doesn't help that you have guys that are concussed right now and injured, and you're missing 3 of your key starters right now. That's hurting them, and Murray is being inconsistent in goal right now. So, I mean, I think that all factors in. That Rutherford felt like he had to make some kind of move, but I don't know if it's the right. It's to be determined. It was a big contract, and from what a lot of the reports are saying, that he's a locker room cancer, which if the Penguins weren't paying attention to what a cancerous locker room does, you can look right at the Steelers and see exactly what happens when you have clubhouse cancers. So it doesn't make sense to me. What were your thoughts with that?
I've always wanted to see them go in a direction where they have to make moves. I mean, let's be honest. They have to go and try to make a run. But I also wanted to see them kind of move in a direction to grow. And I don't think any of the moves they've made this year really get down to that. I was disappointed to see that Hagelin has made his way back to Washington, and he's going to be playing with the Capitals. That hurts as a Michigan man, a fellow Michigan man. Hagelin played at Michigan, won a cup with the Penguins. Now he's with a bitter rival. And it was like, why make that move? You were going to bring in better defensemen. And in all honesty, I don't know if that's even come close to being accomplished. So I wanted to see something to build. You have, I think Jake Gensel's great, a nice young talent that they can build around. And you have the veterans in Crosby and Malkin. Get them some support. But they haven't been making moves that make you think, oh, wow, they're really improving the team, or, hey, they're getting the cap room to make a run at some free agents. It's kind of like, what are you doing? You're scratching your head. Sure, you're bringing guys in, but at this point, you shouldn't just be trying things whenever you've had 2 Stanley Cup wins. You know what a successful team looks like with the talent you have. Why aren't you trying to recreate that or build from that? Instead, it feels like it's like a sinking ship. And I hate to say that. Maybe I'm proving them wrong. I don't know. But
I almost get the feeling from that, though, that they're trying to make moves because they know that the window to win is now with Malkin and Crosby, and that if they squander this chance, it may take years to get them back there. So it's like we're trying to make moves, and even if it's almost like a team that's playing out of desperation. And I don't know that they necessarily need to be there, but they need to get themselves healthy, and they need to continue to stay healthy. And I think that's been the biggest thing, is that there's consistent injuries, especially with Letang. He's missed more games over the last 2 or 3 seasons than he's probably played, I would think. So I think getting guys healthy and getting them, on the ice instead of watching in the stands is going to be something that can help them.
Well, look back at the Steelers and how they overreacted. Now, granted, they didn't win, and this is going all the way back to 1995 with Neil O'Donnell and his poor showing. If you remember how they handled that, and I know I was quite young, so I may be exaggerating some things, but they went in a totally different direction. They brought in Slash. It was going to be game changer. They were going to go ahead and do this, and they weren't going to have to rebuild. And guess what? They had to rebuild. They had to bring in a quarterback from the XFL, and it took them a decade to get back to that level, even though they were consistently winning. And I feel like the Penguins don't have to do that. They don't have to rush and try to get that excitement in the win now mode. Hockey players, I mean, there are guys that play forever. Jaromir Jagr, he was still playing So you have guys like that played forever. You can play at a decently high level, like if Crosby and Malkin really want to, and if the Penguins can work something out with them, why not have a savvy veteran that's been around forever to teach some of the younger guys? But you have to take a step in either direction. Just making moves for the sake of saying, hey, we made moves, it's almost very Pirates-esque. Like, hey, did you see that? We made a trade, and look how awful it turned out. Remember the Archer deal last year for the Pirates? Everyone was like, oh, this is great. They're getting an ace. And I even brought in, look at his numbers. They've been going the opposite direction every year. And then I wasn't shocked when it didn't work out. And, I mean, what am I getting here? I know we've just had 2 cup wins, so if they don't win another one, oh well. I would think that in this era of salary cap, 3 cups, so close together. I know they've had another one previously back with the Red Wings. That would be awesome if they can get it this late in their career. So let's see what they can get done. But I'm not feeling excited. I'll say that. Are you excited for this, Matt?
Well, if they don't watch their ass, they're going to end up watching the playoffs like us at home. I think the big thing that they got to get done is they got to get more consistent goal play. And whether it's Murray when he's playing is definitely a benefit, but they need that number 2, because when they were making the cup runs, they had Fleury, and then when Fleury would start to taper off, they had Murray to come in and give them and spell them, and you got consistent play out of it. They haven't gotten that since the Vegas expansion and Fleury went to Vegas. So I think that's going to be one of the big determining factors down the stretch if they can pull this run off, is can they get consistent goal play?
Yeah, and they were supposed to bring in some defenders to help, and it hasn't really worked out. So at some point, I would have said just go raw youth or go with an extreme veteran. You have to make that decision. You can't be kind of picking these journeymen up and hoping that it works out. But let's go ahead and get into some football. There were some big ramblings. We'll start with I'll hit on it quick. The AAF ratings, they went up in the 3rd week. And I want to say that they beat up all the other sports that were on cable television. And they went up to about 500,000 viewers. I don't know if it was an average per game. But if you remember, they're shoving AAF football, which is the Alliance of American Football, on CBS Sports, NFL Network. I think 2 games are on CBS Sports. One was on the NFL Network. And the other channel is slipping my mind. But I do not think that I have it or have access to it. So I haven't been able to watch those ones. Now, if you have the app, you can watch it on your phone. And I did some research after I talked about it last week. There are no announcers. There are no scoreboards. There are nothing. It's just a live feed of one of the stadium cams. And I don't even know if they flip it on the phone. So you can watch, but you almost need 2 phones. One to watch like the game cast so you know what's going on, and one to watch the stream, because otherwise you're completely lost, as I was when I tried it out just to see what was going on. But ratings are increasing. And if you look back at the XFL, theirs went down every week as the television networks buried it. AAF, no one is talking about it. I don't see barely any coverage on any of the major networks, including some of the CBS Sports ones, which is kind of interesting because they own them. I watched basketball. Michigan State played on regular CBS on Sunday, and they had another big college basketball game. It was Villanova and Xavier maybe on before that, and I didn't see them mention anything about the AAF. And if they were actively trying to promote this league, why not mention it? I mean, we see all ads for all kind of other things. If you're watching ESPN, they always show things that are going to be on ESPN2, ABC, especially college football. If you're watching the big Saturday night 8 p.m. game on ABC, they always talk about, oh, good, check out ESPN, watch ESPN. We have this game streaming on Thursday night. And CBS needs to do that if they're going to promote the league. And I wanted to hit on that quick because there are other rumors between the XFL. And personally, I love the XFL. So I want to get your thoughts on this, Matt. I remember watching it growing up, and I thought that they were doing a lot of things right, and they didn't have the media behind them. And obviously, there were some other things. This time, they could get it right. I was wrong last week. I didn't think they announced the teams. They did announce the locations, and they are in major cities. It's like the same as, I don't know if it's the same exact 8 cities when the league first started. I know they're like, it's Chicago, New York, St. Louis, LA, almost all the way across big cities, which is the opposite of the AAF approach. And AAF came out and made a statement against the XFL and said that it was XFL rumors that made everyone think they didn't make payroll last week, which is interesting because that was one of our hot topics.
So the XFL just made it up that the Carolina Panthers owner bought significant amount of...
What was the Hurricanes owner? He stepped in.
Or that's what I meant.
And they were trying to make it seem like the XFL was putting out these hidden messages to have people panic on the league. But let's be honest, no one's talking about the league anyway. So why would the XFL even need to do that? Because that was press for the AAF. Any press is good press. Because if you're not talking about the league, no one's going to know. They see the AAF's going bankrupt. Most people are going to click on that article and see, oh wait, now they're not going bankrupt. They just made a $250 million purchase. So I thought it was interesting that came out. AAF then came back and fired out and said that Vince McMahon had offered to sell the XFL to the AAF beforehand. And I don't know if they shot it down or whatever, but there's going to be some bad blood, and I'm loving it. So do you have high hopes for the XFL next year, Matt, in competition with the AAF?
I'll say with 2 of the hires that they announced, and I was critical of him, but I want to see what he can do in a higher role. They took your boy Pep Hamilton as one of the GMs.
He's a DC, I think.
Yes.
So that's another team. I didn't mention that city.
And they went after Big Game Bob.
Bob Stoops.
And they got Stoops out. So, I mean, to me, I think there's 2 different styles of scheme that would be beneficial for that league. I'm curious to see what other coaches come out. And if they go more college rank guys, then you're going to see more wide open things. I think the thing that's hurting the AAF right now is they're not scoring the points. You're getting these slower knockdown drag out games that kind of reminiscent of football in like the 70s and 80s, where it was just smash mouth, grind it out because the passing game is just looks so out of sync.
Well, I'll say that I'm excited to see Pep Hamilton and see what he can do. I think he's gotten a lot of bad flack over the years. Didn't work out with the Colts and Andrew Luck. Didn't work out with the Cleveland Browns. His offense was, I thought, pretty decent at Michigan. My only complaint was the passing routes were, he didn't have a good short game. Everything took long to develop. And with Harbaugh's like pound it down your throat running style, it doesn't mesh well. If he got a zone running scheme similar to what the Iowa Hawkeyes run, Iowa runs a lot of roll out the quarterback, zone read type runs that take long developing. You don't have to have the fastest linemen or the highest rated recruits to get it to work. And you also don't have have to have the fastest receivers because you're able to buy yourself a little bit longer in the pocket. I think that's the type of running game that would complement Pep Hamilton's passing game well. Because a lot of people could just stack the box against Michigan, and they didn't really have a run game to counter it. And Iowa's been running it for, 20 years now? Is that how long Ferentz has been at Iowa? 1999? 2019 is this his 21st season? I'm not sure if the numbers might be a little bit off, but he's been running that same system. Get your guys some time because they can't stack the box against your zone run because the way it's blocked, you're able to just count down and kind of counter any blitz, and you buy yourself some time in the pocket. If he gets something like that, I could see it working. I want to see what Bob Stoops does because he had more of a traditional air raid. Mike Leach was his offensive coordinator for a while before he took the Texas Tech job. So is he going to bring that style to the league? Get me some exciting offense because right now the AAF hasn't gotten it done. I mean, who do we have? I've been waiting for the big undefeated showdown between the Apollos and the Iron. I actually think that's one of our topics, them being undefeated. That's Steve Spurrier. To me, he's the only exciting coach in that league. You already have the XFL trying to match him. Go ahead.
And that's bizarre because you were giving me crap last week about Spurrier, but I mean,
well, I love Spurrier.
He's running the similar scheme that he ran in his early years at Florida. So you're still seeing some of the draws and his Mills pass that is very well known, where they run the dig with the post behind it. I mean, those are the same plays that he was dialing up forever that didn't work when he was the coach at Washington. But he resurrected it in the AAF, and he's making it work with those guys.
Plus, he's not afraid to run a trick play. He runs them down there. They don't work. He's laughing. They're showing him just having fun. And I think that that's contagious. In a league where you don't have dynamic quarterbacks, you just don't. So if the XFL is doing one thing, I think that they're focusing on the quarterback. That's the thing that I've heard that they've put out. If they go and do what I suggested last week, get us some dual threat, big name quarterbacks. If they could bring in even a Johnny Manziel or some other named quarterback like that, the XFL or the AAF has none of that. So the XFL would have a distinct advantage, at least in my mind. You can bring in wide receivers and stuff, but most of the big-time playmakers are either in the NFL or bombed out by now, unless you're bringing in old guys like Terrell Owens, which I don't know if people would still tune in to see that or not, because I think he tried with the CFL, and that didn't even work out. But let's go ahead. There's another topic I wanted to get you on. Atlanta Legends. They lost their OC. You said he quit?
Look, this team, this is why I think they're trying to spin this back on Vince McMahon, just for nothing else, that this is like the most bizarre team. So originally they had Brad Childress, the old Minnesota coach, as their head coach, and their offensive coordinator was Michael Vick. So like 2 days before the start of the season, they come out and say, no, Vic's not our offensive coordinator anymore. He's in some unspecified role within the organization. And they hired, I believe it was Bartell, was the offensive coordinator. And he used to quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. So they hired him as the OC. Now, after the game yesterday, he quits. So now you've gone through two head coaches, two offensive coordinators. You're a franchise that's based in Georgia, and your quarterback is former Tennessee quarterback and Phil Simms' son, Matt Simms. You have Aaron Murray, the Georgia product. Like you're the Georgia team. You have a Georgia quarterback. You're trying to attract fans, but keep the Georgia kid that you drafted on the bench and playing Phil Simms' kid.
Thank you, Matt, because I couldn't remember if that was Atlanta or the other team that I watched lose. And exactly right. Simms was awful. I have no idea what he was doing. Game-ending interception, just regular interceptions. And they kept talking about having Aaron Murray. Try to make the league exciting. Your team is 0-3. You're rolling out Simms as your quarterback. No one is tuning in to watch Simms at quarterback. I don't even consider Phil Simms a great quarterback. And I grew up around that same time. Yeah, I wouldn't even tune in to see Phil Simms play. And I know he had great stats. He won a couple Super Bowls. He was not a flashy quarterback. I remember John Elway, Dan Marino, Joe Montana, those guys. No one ever talked about, wow, Phil Simms. I thought, you mean that commentator that's on TV these days? No one ever thinks like, oh, he was that quarterback on the Giants.
Well, when he beat John Elway's Broncos in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And with that Super Bowl, he completed 88% of his passes. He was 22 of 25 in that Super Bowl. It almost reminds me of the way Peyton Manning won his Super Bowl when he went up against a team that had no offense. Like literally, that Broncos team was 100% John Elway. Shut Elway's passing game down, and they were done. And the Broncos weren't relevant until they brought T.O. or Terrell Davis on to balance out the running game. It's just like, yeah, he had those wins, but what kind of competition was he facing? Facing crap defenses.
Yeah, I mean, that is not a name that is selling. I honestly thought this, and I wrote it down in my notes, Matt. You're better off just bringing in Jimmy Clausen. At least Clausen was talking trash back in the day. I'm sure him and Sims are about at the same level. I don't think Sims was ever close to making an NFL roster. I could be wrong, but that's not a name that anyone tunes in for. Is he only doing it? Is Sims on CBS? Like, is this just a favor for the league? Because Aaron Murray was 100 times better in college. They even mentioned it during the broadcast 5 times that he was like 2-time SEC Player of the Year or something like that. Give him a shot. You're in Georgia. Why would anyone go see that team? I hated the team name, the Legends, because it reminded me of the Big Ten Legends and Leaders, which was a gigantic failure. Come up with something else classy. I mean, I don't even know. That's supposed to be a team that I'm supposed to cheer for down here in the Carolinas, and I honestly hate that team. Before the season even started, I hated them.
Excuse me. I stand corrected. Bartell didn't quit today. He resigned as the team's quarterback coach and play caller on Friday, prior to the 28-12 loss. So, what a joke.
I don't even know. That's the most minor league thing I've ever heard. Like a coach just walking off. It reminded me of what was that movie with Kevin Costner, Bull Durham? He's like Crash Davis or whatever. He just quits in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? I'm too old. And then he comes back to hit that one home run or whatever he needed to break the record. He tried to do it. Like that's something that would happen in the joke league, like the minor league baseball. And that's exactly what happened here. And to be honest, that team, that Atlanta team, I'm pretty sure that's who Denard Robinson plays for. I haven't even seen him do anything meaningful, but you have a dynamic player like that. Your team's awful. Feed him the ball. Put him at quarterback. He can't be worse if you're just going to go out there and try to get some excitement. Do something. At least I think he's still on the team. I don't know. I have no idea. But let's get into the actual 2 successful teams. The last 2 undefeated teams, Birmingham and Orlando. Orlando we talked about. I think they're a product of coaching, and they are on the back of Steve Spurrier. I did in their game, I think, did they play Atlanta? Or one of the undefeated teams I think played Atlanta. I could have been wrong, but one thing I did like was they didn't have the onside kick, and they went for the 4th down, whatever, get to keep the ball. They ran like a fake. This is Atlanta doing this with Sims, of course. So it's like they gave him a 4th down and 12 or whatever the ruling is. He ran they looked like they were going to throw an out. He kind of I don't know if he actually pump faked or they just kind of delayed, and he threw it deep. And they had one-on-one coverage. Their guy caught the ball, and they actually got to keep the ball down at the 30. Of course, a play or two later, Sims throws an interception, so it didn't even matter. But I thought, wow, they're 2 touchdowns behind. They just scored 1 touchdown. They get this onside Hail Mary, which was crazy because it didn't even have to be a Hail Mary, but the defense was not expecting them to go deep. And he could theoretically now just throw a touchdown, and then they would just need 1 conversion to make this a game. So it was a lot more exciting in terms of blowouts. I don't remember the NFL. I know the NFL had some blowouts, but they did have some shootouts, more so this year, and I think that's a product of them moving towards some of the spread concepts that are in college. But I would like to see college football go that direction. Have them get rid of the kickoffs and do punts. But then, that's what I want them to do, because punts are still exciting, and they've been proven to have least or less collisions due to the fact that you could also just hike the ball and do a running fake. I would like to see. I always loved the kickoff, but after watching that game, I wouldn't mind if they switched it to punts. If they get rid of it altogether, it's weird. It's weird that they had to announce that they were going to go for it instead of just giving the other team the ball. To me, that's weird. But if you made it a punt so that it's at the same yard line every time, like the 35 or 40, I mean, kickoffs, they keep moving them up and up because they don't want returns. At that point, just make it a punt. Make it a 4th and 15 and punt it. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Coach?
Where did they spot the ball for the 4th down play?
I'll be honest, I was a little too hyped that it was even happening. That I don't know. I was more into what are they doing here? What formation are they going to run? Because you don't see a lot of these except after they've already been. Normally, you've seen them get ready the whole drive, get sacked 3 times, and then they're like, okay, it's a 4th and 15, we have to throw it. They just came out flat, broke the huddle, and I had no idea what the personnel was going to be. But go ahead.
But I think I do kind of like that aspect. Like, I like that better as an offensive coach. I like that mindset better. That make it a 4th and 15 or whatever, and if you're confident in what you're running, it gives you a good shot to make that play or to set something up. I like it, and I could see that transferring, because definitely if you're looking from a player safety standpoint, the onside kick right now, it's not a safe play for players, because essentially you're trying to drive it 10 yards down the field and just smash everyone in the way to hopefully recover it. So if you're looking at it from a safety standpoint, that is a nice rule change that keeps player safety in mind.
Yeah, and I agree. For people that don't know, the actual way teams coach onside kicks now is they have their kicker drive the ball into the ground, try to pop it up, and your return team usually takes out the first line of people and they have like one guy catch. So there's very violent collisions to try to clear the way for their best hands guy to catch the ball. A lot of times there's big collisions and the ball just bounces out of bounds anyway. So just make it a punt. I'm going to actually try to see on the show here, and I should have did this research beforehand, what percentage of punts versus kickoffs are returned for touchdowns. I might not be able to find the number, but I'll try to remember to do it for next week, because I think that would be the next factor. Because to me, punts are more exciting. Sure, the guy can fair catch it, but you have a better chance of a return and a punt if you have a bold player or you need a return than a kickoff where it's kicked out through the uprights and you have no chance at all. So, or what teams are doing now is they're just trying to sky it. You kick it as high as you can down to like the 5-yard line to try to force like a shimmy return. And that's just as violent. At that point, if that's what they're doing, just make it a punt. Basically, a punter could do the same exact thing, coffin corner it down inside the 5-yard line. And that way you also get rid of the kick out of bounds. Because if a guy wants to coffin corner at 15 yards or a guy shanks a punt, you can't have shanked kickoffs really. It goes out of bounds, they get it at the 35? Dude shanks it 5 yards. I'd be laughing because you can't really have that in the onside kick. They would just call it like a legal procedure or whatever. So, anything else you have for that kickoff stuff?
No, not too much. It definitely made the game interesting, because I thought that could be a way that teams could end up running the score up if you have a scheme that you really like. I think it would definitely favor the offenses. When you look at a team like in our Super Bowl, you score a touchdown and just keep going for it. Just get the ball back and don't give the other team's offense a chance to score points. Just stay on the aggressive side. I like that.
Well, I think they have rules in place, which is why I favor 4th and 15 and the punt formation, because you can only go for it within the last 5 minutes of the game, and you have to be down. But to me, that's really not fair. Let's say another team can't stop them because they get hot later, they switch quarterback. Why not let your team decide to go for it and try to stop them and try to get it yourself to convert to ice the game? I mean, we've seen teams start off the second half of a game with a fake kickoff on big bowl games and national championships all the time with an onside kick to start the second half. You can't do that with these rules. You're kind of do a punt return, and then if they want to do one of those weird snap to the up back reverse things, I'd love to see that to start the second half. You wouldn't be expecting it at all on a punt return. So I want to see them go in that direction. But the other game, Birmingham, I don't know what to make of that team. They are like defense first, and that's it. I'm not threatened by their offense. They have Trent Richardson, and I've seen a lot of people complain because he averages like 2 yards a carry and then 6 touchdowns. So like he never breaks it. He's just able to go ahead and score quick balls, and that's it. So I don't know what they're going to go ahead and do for that, take the next step. But from a perspective, and I don't know how the playoffs are set up, this rematch, they're going to play each other next week, I believe, Orlando and Birmingham. Next week is when we're really going to go ahead and see if Birmingham is for real. But I could see them getting shelled against Steve Spurrier if he's able to just out-scheme them. Because at some point, you can't have the best athletes in a minor league. They're all going to kind of be iffy. So that's my insight on that. 2 yards a carry and a bunch of touchdowns just because of short field and stuff. Not so much exciting. I think on the West side, their best team lost to like a team that previously had no wins or something similar. So not a good look. When you're only in a 10-week season, it's tough to get excited. I see a lot of hype, and I also see a lot of trash talk by AAF fans on the XFL. I welcome both leagues because then they're going to force each other to be a better product. And that's my call back to the XFL. They're going to work to make the best product possible. So you want more teams. But go ahead. Anything you have on this before we get into the Steelers stuff, Matt?
I think when you see the iron play, the thing that's helping them right now is their defense is playing so ridiculously good that it's compensating for their lack of offense. And when they're playing a team like Orlando that has the offense that can score points in a hurry, I think it's gonna really expose them down the stretch, because if they can't score quick and they're a slow ground and pound team, they could find themselves in a hole really quick.
Yeah, it's going to be something where it's tough to tell because we're not as familiar with these teams, so we don't know for sure if they're just a great defensive team or it's been like a fluke. We honestly might not know until the end of the year. And even then, it still might be a crapshoot. Kind of like the NFL, you always hear about how they have these great defenses. Then they meet another offense that's high-powered, and it's a 45-42 game. And you're like, oh, wow, I guess that defense isn't that great. But we'll see. We'll see if it's exciting. I did some quick counting here from last year because there's no way to really look this up. It looks like there were 7 punts returned for a touchdown and only 5 kickoffs. And I'm not doing any comparison to see how many attempts there were. So you can just take that as face value as punts are better. Switch to the punts, and let's go ahead, and you'll see some more touchdowns. They'll be more exciting. And then we can see the onside Hail Mary, if you want to, per se. Because sometimes, to be honest, if there's I've seen teams score with like a second left, and then they're like, oh, if they get the onside kick, the announcers are talking about it for five minutes because there's 5 minutes of commercials. I'm like, what do you mean if they get the onside kick? If they get the onside kick, there's no time left. They're done. As soon as one of the up guys touches that ball, the clock is going to tick off that second. But now, you don't have to worry about that because you're throwing a Hail Mary, baby. You need to bring out someone that has a big arm to just heave it up or run a hook and ladder because those always work out. So that's my last talk on the AAF. We'll be looking back into that next week. I don't think there's a lot of compelling matchups this week, but we'll see. Get some football. Now our big topic. Where will Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell end up? The big rumor for Bell, I'll start it off and then I'll let you go, is the Texans are after him. They've kind of shut it down. I think we mentioned it before. Foster, to me, is that their running back? I'm trying to think.
Lamar Miller,
yeah. He has been a guy that looked hot at certain points last year because I knew that was wrong, and he hasn't made the step to doing it full time. They also have the other guy, which is Foreman from Texas, who was really hyped up, but he's been injured almost all the time he's been there. So it makes a smart play for them to go with Bell. And I thought about it because I think I shot it down initially. I've thought about it and I think it could work. And that's if they have Watson healthy. Because you need a quarterback that can kind of extend plays. And that's what he can do. That's what Le'Veon Bell is used to. He's not going to be able to make a scheme where he's going to jump in and fit right into a pro system or something. I know he's been something similar at Michigan State, but that if he goes there, one team I would like to see him go to, though, is the Browns. Just because the Browns have been loading up on young talent. And they need like a head case in the locker room to really push them over to the edge to where you can't have their guys getting a big head and starting to talk about playoffs. Le'Veon Bell would keep them from the playoffs and keep them being the Browns. We don't want him to end up with like Baltimore or something. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, that was the one place that it just keeps. I keep hearing Baltimore is one of the places, and they've been taking their losses from him for a while, so it makes sense that they might make a run. The other one that kind of makes sense is the Jets, because I think the Jets are dumb enough to pay him the insane amount of money that he wants, knowing that their fans are going to expect him to just be Jesus, and then after three games, he'll have a hamstring or other injury, and then he won't play the rest of the year. And that just seems like a fitting place that he'll get paid, and he can sit out and he can have that big media market in New York. And I think that'll just feed right into what he's looking for.
I've said before, if he goes to the Jets, don't be surprised if Brown doesn't end up there too. Because that seems to be the only situation I could see them ending up on the same team. And I could be wrong, but that would be hey, look at us, we're in New York now. Now they can't keep us out. Now we can do whatever we want to do. Now we'll be able to take that next step. They have their quarterback from USC. What's that guy's name? Darnold? I'm not high on him. And I feel like those two...
Ivan Drago.
I feel like those two don't talk bad on my man Drago. Darnold's nowhere near that assertive. He came out and said, I must break you. Darnold would be like, excuse me, sir. Can I participate in this fight, this boxing match? So they could easily look at him and say, that's a young guy. We can tell him what to do. Let's go to the Jets. Because I don't think he has the leadership qualities. And maybe some people have said that that's a Southern Cal personality, that he could be fiery in the locker room. Then show me. You were at USC, the highest talented team in the Pac-12, and you won what? Nothing? A Rose Bowl? Did they beat Penn State that Rose Bowl? I mean, nothing of consequence. So then he goes to the Jets, and what happens? Everyone's like, well, he seems to be all right. Then he throws like 3 interceptions. Oh, I don't know what's going on with him. Oh, the same thing he did at USC where he just throws interceptions to the wrong team for no reason. And Bell and Brown, I think if they're looking at a situation where they want to team up, and I don't know if they do, they could see that and say, hey, we can push him over. Let's go there. But other than that, Brown seems to be on this all about me tear. And if he goes to the 49ers and keeps doing what Jerry Rice is doing, Jerry Rice is the guy that everyone just calls the greatest. And I think he has been missing the spotlight now because every time I'm on like social media, I see a bunch of people retweeting Jerry Rice. I don't think I even follow him, but he's always just taking random selfies. Like I would like to see a counter on Jerry Rice selfies versus like a typical high school girl, because he's going for that attention thing. And I understand as a receiver, that's the thing, but that's what everyone always said about Jerry Rice. Oh, he wasn't a guy like Tio. He wasn't all about me. Look at his Twitter. That's exactly what he's doing. All about me. It's like, hey, here's me in this gold hat. Hey, I'm golfing today, guys. Check this out. And it's always like the weirdest selfie. Like, unlike some of the athletes that have like their wife or some like agent or someone taking the photos for them, Jerry Rice is actually taking a selfie by himself. So he's probably sitting down and is like, yeah, I'm taking this. I gotta let everyone know that I'm up today. And Antonio Brown, I could just see him and Jerry Rice being like an obnoxious team. Like, hey, we're always hanging out now. We're in San Francisco. And the media over there eating it up. To the point where I would be so tired of it that I would just want them to lose. And luckily he'd be on the 49ers, so they would be losing. So I could live with that one. But I don't know any other team that's going to grab him and really fits his mold. His best shot is to end up at a team like Buffalo or even Minnesota, but they even have Diggs now, so I don't know if they're still in that realm of grabbing guys to try to drastically improve their offense. He needs to find a team that's like set in the Stone Age. And I don't know if too many teams still around that do that. Redskins, maybe? They've tried it in the past.
As far as for Brown and the Redskins, I don't like that fit. Just because I think Brown needs to be in a more vertical passing system. Like with what he's doing in Pittsburgh, he's not having to run the tree like Jerry Rice did with the 9 when he was in the West Coast system. And both Grudens are West Coast disciples. So they're going to expect him to run slants and, they're going to run the tree. So I just don't know that that's going to be a good fit. I think for him personally, I think he fits better in a scheme like Buffalo that's going to use Josh Allen and just use him similar to the way Pittsburgh's using with Roethlisberger, where he drops back and throws the deeper game.
I mean, you're not wrong. I just think that what team is going to spend, and I'm looking at teams like the Redskins that might say, okay, Alex Smith is down. What gives us our best shot? A dynamic receiver. And it's not so much about scheme at that point. It's more along the lines of, okay, what do we need to do here? Let's try to, it's a business. Let's try to sell some tickets.
But I do think that the Raiders would be a team that could be in the mode for trading for Brown, because they gave away Amari Cooper.
And that's why I don't think they do it, though.
But I think they got rid of one, and they have the first round draft picks that they could potentially, they have the capital to package something that then could show to their fans, yeah, we gave Amari Cooper away. And then that looked horrible on them. They basically gave him away to Dallas, and then all they did was just score touchdown after touchdown.
Yeah, but they're going to go ahead and bring in a cancer. Like I heard rumors about Cooper and not fitting with the team. And it seems like Gruden got rid of all of the guys, the highly paid guys, that had the same rumors surrounding them, Khalil Mack being another one, where, hey, they're talented, they show up on game day, but they weren't really locker room guys per se. So you're going out and you're going to get Brown, which is like a clear cancer, worse than either of those two guys. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I feel like Gruden's trying to build his team like that early Buccaneer situation where he walked into, where it was like all team first guys, Allstott, Lynch, Barber. They had like a team built around defense and team camaraderie. And they took advantage of that. After that Super Bowl run, he kind of lost that identity in his last NFL stint, and the team slowly fell apart. I feel like he's been trying to get the locker room there first. Will it work out?
Which is a very smart move on his part.
Oh, exactly. It's 100% what he needs to do. But will it work out? I don't know at this point. I just don't think he brings in Brown for that reason. Why would you make all those moves your first year only to bring in a cancer your next year and blow everything up? So, who else? Any other teams off the top of your head that you could see either of them going to?
I'll throw a wild one out there for Le'Veon Bell. And he's not going to get paid as much, but if he starts to search the market and he's not getting the guaranteed money that he wants, I wouldn't be surprised for him to go to a place like the Chiefs. That if in his mind he's thinking, get the ring, and then he sign a 1-year deal with guaranteed money, and then push the chips in, go all in, and look at a place like Kansas City that they just kicked Kareem Hunt off, and are they a running back away? He's not going to have to be the only guy. He's not going to have to be the solo pony, but he can contribute. And all of those backs, they're taking random people and getting them to produce in Andy Reid's offense. That could be a scheme that take a year, prove that sitting out last year helped them, pad his stats, and then really go for a high money value deal the following year.
Yeah, I agree that the Hunt deal could be the reason that it works out. They lose him, like you said, rent him short term and try to go. Could work out. I think for Brown, my wild card would be down here in Carolina with the Panthers. Now, I don't know so much about how their salary cap is looking, but right now people are starting to be weary of Cam Newton. They haven't really had a deep threat with him. I mean, let's be honest, their other receiver, Funchess, he played tight end at Michigan. That's your receiver now. So he has the size, he can run the routes, but he doesn't have the breakaway speed or give them a deep threat like Brown would do and put them over the top. They lost, Benjamin, and it was like a weird situation when that all went down. So he really could use weapons. What would it look like in that system if you're trying to really elevate your offense? With Kuechly down here, defense hasn't really been too big of a problem. But give Cam another weapon. Let's see what happens. I don't know. I don't think that it would work out. And I think with Cam being the quarterback and how outspoken he is, I don't think Brown would hurt them as bad as going to a place where they don't have a star quarterback like that. If he can go to a team like even Garoppolo at 49ers, Garoppolo's not out there in the media like Cam is. Brown would take center stage there. He could actually make his career work if he was able to complement a guy like Cam Newton, I think. So to me, that's my wild card where I think he could wind up and be successful. I agree with your Chiefs situation for Bell. I think that he could be successful there as a short-term rental. I don't think he could do it long-term. Brown could also go the Randy Moss route and try to sign with New England the same deal. where, hey, we know Tom Brady's getting up there, let's rent me a ring and go from there. I don't know if he would actually listen to Belichick, though, because some guys are just too far gone. And he's been going through a weird spell lately. But anything else you have between those two?
No, I will say if Pittsburgh shocks me and does decide to move Brown, I'm curious to see what they actually get back in return, because they came out and said, yeah, we need to part ways, we need to trade. But then it was like they kind of walked it back a little bit and said, well, we're only going to do it if we get a decent return back on our investment. So we're not going to trade him unless we get something good in return. So I want to see what that good value in return is going to be for a player like that in his mind is one of the best players in the league. So I'm curious to see what fair value or what they feel like a reasonable deal would be to trade away a player like Brown.
I honestly think if you're a team that was gambling, and we talked about it here, I didn't think they would get a first-round pick. But, like, if you were the Cowboys, you didn't get Cooper last year, and you thought that was a piece. Like, that's the most Cowboys move that they could do. Trade a 2020 first-round pick and try to go all in. They're just not in the situation. That's why I think a Panthers move where they're looking at Cam Newton closing in on the midpoint of his career, saying, hey, we need to get you some help to try to make another run. How long has he been in the league? Has it been 8 years? What year was their run? 2011 or 2010? So could it be 9 years in the league? I mean, you got to get him some help at some point. NFC South has been a gauntlet. Let's be honest. Almost all the teams except for Tampa Bay have been in a Super Bowl or close to it recently. Saints, you could kind of count this year without that pass interference penalty or whatever. But I just think if they're going to trade him, you need a team that's desperate. And there's not that many desperate teams, it feels like, this year. I wouldn't count it out, though. Last thing for the NFL before we wrap up the show. NFL is still deciding on replays and what they're going to do with replays in the booth. And I will say right off the bat that I watched the AAF, and I've talked about countless times how they should have a guy in the booth. They should not put that guy in the booth on TV. That is the worst idea. I don't need some guy telling me what he thinks the ruling is and then walking through it. And I think the AAF allows that guy to make the call. I can't remember what game I was watching, though. It was either a catch or an out of bounds. And he's like watching the replay in slow motion, and you're watching it at home with him, and he's telling you what he sees. I want the guy in the booth to save time. NFL, listen, save time in the game. You're already going to go to commercial. Don't bring me back and make me watch a guy talk about it for an extra 2 or 3 minutes. Get me back, have the call, after the call, show me the replay after the next play. That's my gripe with it. The fact that they haven't made a decision on it is baffling to me, because you would think that they'd want to make the sport better. I don't want them to start reviewing penalties and things. Just add a guy in the booth. It's simple as that. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think they could get away with that. Just do what you need to do. Just get it right. Just get it right. It's all we care about. I don't care if you show them, if you don't show them. Good, bad, ugly. Do what you need to do to just make it work.
And I'm sure it's the television networks that are like, hey, we have viewers that don't know what's going on. So you need the guy to talk while he's watching the replay. You can tell that the guy's trying to concentrate, and he knows, and this is the AAF I'm talking about now, and he knows that he has to kind of give a play-by-play because they're awkward when he does it. He was like, foot down. Oh, go back. What? No, right there. Up. If you have foot down, okay, fast forward 1 frame. Or whatever he was saying. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's like listening to like a robot try to walk its way through the Turing test, which is like an artificial intelligence test they do in computer programming. But it's like a computer. You could tell that guy's like doing some robotic command. Just tell me what it is. You're the guy. I don't need your explanation, because they're going to have the color guy give the explanation right after and make a joke or whatever you want to tell, or just don't show the replay anymore. We all know that anytime there's a controversial call and it probably gets called in from the booth and the network doesn't show a replay, that's for a reason, because they made a bad call and they don't want the bad publicity. Just do it. I don't care. Speed the game up. AAF games don't feel faster. NFL, don't make the games worse. I feel like every time there's been a situation over the past 2 or 3 years, you've tried to make the league worse. Helmet hits, weird penalties for protecting players, and then it's clear cut on some and you don't call it. And then other ones that are like very, very borderline, you're calling like excessive penalties, throwing guys out, whatever. Just make the game fun again. Add some more excitement. Player celebrations aren't doing it for me either, because now everyone kind of does the same thing, like a team selfie in the end zone. That's not a fun celebration. So having a list of things you can do isn't fun. I have to end on that, Matt. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with the NFL?
No, not so much with the NFL, but I did have just a story that I want to kind of keep an eye on. Well, actually, with the NFL, keep an eye on your boy Robert Kraft, because what a mess he's in now. I'll be surprised if he holds on as being owned. Because if you look at the way that they've handled situations similar to his, they've forced the owner to resign or to turn control over. And so to me, I want to see, does he get some kind of exemption? And is he going to be able to maintain control? Because I don't know how he's able to stay in control of his franchise based on that. For a league that has an image problem, how they can justify keeping him as owner, regardless of what his status is as owner or whatever. I think the legal stuff is going to force him out. What do you think?
Well, if you haven't followed that, there was an FBI sting on a massage parlor. Robert Kraft was there, I believe. And I don't know if they had video or something they said of him, which was probably part of the sting that they set up for evidence. I don't know if he just so happened to be there. It was in a strip mall. And so I first read the name. It was like resort or something, spa. And I thought it was like a fancy millionaires hangout. Like millionaires hang out there. Like, no, this is a strip mall. Like I've been to like 300 of them in Florida. Like there's usually like a massage parlor, a liquor store, and like one of those video game gambling things that you go in and you're like, is this an arcade? Like, what is this place? And then you go in and it's all dark and people are just sitting there playing like those electronic bar games. And it's like, why are people in this place? But he's there. He's at a strip mall massage parlor. So I would say that off my gut, it was bad luck. I don't know if that's enough to force him out, and it's yet to see how the investigation goes. Now, obviously, Matt, if there is evidence against him that he's in it deeper than what I thought on first look, and reading through the initial reports and whoever put it out, I think it was the FBI, whatever their initial report was that made me think that he was just caught in the sting, I think that can be let go. I would be interested to see. They do normally push people out. I remember Donald Sterling. They, to me, it seemed like they had an illegal recording in that case where he was recorded in his home. I don't know if they're a two-party consent in that state, though. So maybe it was a legal recording. I don't know, but they made him sell the clippers. I thought that could have been faked. Like, he could have leaked that because he didn't want to be owner anymore, because he made billions of dollars on that sale. Robert Kraft, I mean, he'd no way fake this, but you could see other owners do something simple like that just because they want to get out. Or how do you know someone inside the team doesn't frame an owner after this? So I think they just have to be very careful, because it's almost like, okay, yeah, this is an FBI investigation. If he's convicted for more than just, I think, whatever the initial report was, then look into it. But you're setting yourself up for a lot of those blackmail revenge cases, and these are millionaire owners.
Well, I see that, and what shocks me is that it just seems like he's just so nonchalant. And, you know, if the charges are as bad as what they are, he could be looking at jail. And he's just like, nope, I'm living my best life right now. And just acting as though, like, there's no risk of him going to jail.
Well, the one thing I read, and I don't know if it's true because I didn't check sources, but, like, they said, like, his wife had passed, and they made it seem like he's living a lonely life. So then I honestly felt bad for the guy. Like, maybe that's the best he can do, Matt. I mean, because you're a billionaire, you can't go to a classy joint because everyone will be hitting you up for money. So he's just like, you know what?
So he's just paying for like $100 blowjob.
I don't know. I didn't put together, and I'm not making any allegations, Matt. But I'm just saying, it's just weird. Maybe he needed to blow off some steam. So he put on a disguise, and that's where he ended up. He's in Florida. Like, what else would possess you? You think he's riding around with a driver, or he drove himself? He didn't take the bus. I tried to look at Google Maps to see if they could show me what kind of neighborhood that was, but it wasn't very promising from what I could see.
He took a bike. He was biking.
Hey, you never know. I just thought it was weird because does he live down there, or does he live in New England or Boston? I know New England.
Lives wherever he wants to.
Yeah, I don't know. I did see that story, and I will be interested to see, because didn't Richardson, the Panthers owner, he was forced to sell, or he was kind of on like the same. It was like notes that were passed about him being hostile.
Racist.
Was it racist, or I thought it might have just been like sexist towards the secretary or something. Probably both, to be honest.
But bold move on his part that when he sold, part of his conditions of selling was, you will keep the statue of me in front of the stadium.
Hey, I mean, if he owns it, like, I don't understand. Some of them, it's kind of strange, because if the city helps pay for that, I don't see how any owner could say that you have to keep the statue up. To me, that's kind of crazy. Anyone could get their statue ripped down. But
I concur.
We'll see. See what happens in that case. Because it would be interesting to see whenever Tom Brady gets his next Super Bowl win, who's handing him the mic up there. Talking about consistency. It'll be down to two. Belichick and Brady.
No, it'll be Kraft's going to go to jail, and then Brady's going to be like, nope, time's up. Going to peace out.
No, I'm wondering. We should make a prop bet. Who do you think lasts longer, Belichick or Brady? Brady's playing until he's 45. Belichick could retire at any time.
So got an aging quarterback.
Not one that wins the Super Bowl every year, Matt, or every couple years at least.
All right, let's just call it what it is. It's that owner who's out there risking it all for $100 blowjob in a sketchy massage parlor.
Well,
just doesn't care anymore.
I know he probably tells Tom every day, do as I say, not as I do. He's like, don't put yourself in that situation. That's why everyone says don't build a statue of a living man, because you never know what's going to happen. He could get it taken down. But anything else you want to add for the final bell? I was trying to think. I knew we did talk about before the show. We had something.
My final bell. I saved this one. This is unless you're in Georgia, you probably don't know much about this, but Colquitt County's head coach, Rush Probst, has been placed on paid administrative leave. The school's conducting an internal investigation. I just want to keep an eye on that because Colquitt County High School is one of the better programs in America. And so I think it's a story that's worth watching because they're consistently one of the best teams in America. They produce a lot of talent. They've won state championships in Georgia at the highest classification, and I think it's just something worth noting and something to keep an eye on.
Very cool. I know. I think the only thing I hit on the Michigan State earlier, and I talked about it last week. Michigan State, of course, upset Michigan at home. I thought the two teams were going to split, causing Purdue to back into the Big Ten championship trophy. Could still happen. Michigan has to play at Michigan State. I think that's a taller task. But Purdue still has the easiest schedule, which I blame on the Big Ten at this point. Michigan played them once, beat Purdue. Now I think they split with Michigan State, and then they get the other basketball schools one time. And the same thing will happen. Purdue will make the tournament, get bounced early, and then wonder, hey, we were the champs. I don't know what happened. It's because you had an easy schedule. So, still better. I know Michigan State played better. They deserve it. It's always good to see your rival have a team that can compete. Unlike Ohio State, very sad state of their hoops program. But that's all I have for the Big Ten basketball right now. Not a lot going on in terms of college football. So we'll be keeping an eye on that in the next coming weeks. We also have the Combine coming up. I want to say, is it next week already? Everything seems off this year because I think it's like a late Easter or something. So daylight saving time is also coming up, which is one of my I hate it. That's my most hated time of the year. Spring ahead? Are you kidding me? Dom. Pick one and stick with it. And that's all in the show. So thanks for listening. Like we said earlier at the top of the show, southboundsports.com. Almost everything's loaded. It will be there soon. Make sure if anything's wonky with your iTunes feed or whatever, you might have to resubscribe when that gets switched over in the next coming weeks. But I'll keep hitting on at the beginning of the show. Make sure you're getting the latest episode. So thanks for listening. Tell your friends, and we will see you next week.